Yeah, and I mean, and that's a big deal with the way that your app works and is built, this
Hmm.
business model, right? You know, it's not just that it's good for the employees. So this app that you have, Affili-Fit, it specifically is
Hmm.
targeted towards business owners to be able to bring it on as a wellness app um, for employees, right? It which is
Yes.
how we got connected to begin with, because
Yeah.
it connects well into my space and into the insurance space, which is we're trying to be proactive and actually having a healthy person. We care about the whole person. And as part of that process is that we want to have things in place. So a way an employer can show care for their employee is that they care about the whole person. So this is a way for them to get healthier. But not just that, it also is a way for you to actually build up communities and where this is placed and planted, right? That's the
Hmm.
idea of how this started, of you reaching out to these small business owners nearby. It's giving them exposure by being able to offer something through your rewards program that actually benefits their business and benefits the consumers. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the Built in Faith podcast. I'm your host, David Hemm, and today we have a special guest, Chris Burgess with Affili-Fit. He is the CEO and founder, and we're going to get to hear a little bit about him today. So Chris, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, David. I'm excited to be here.
Man, me too. Well, traditionally, kind of the way we kick this off is we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about you, about your background. So just to get to know you a little bit better, man. So kind of tell me your story. How'd you grow up? What's your testimony?
Man, so I grew up in a small country town called Callisburg, Texas. I think now we have like 365 people. So it's very small culture. And referencing to faith, I had an awesome dad who was a preacher, and it was the anything you can think of in some of those old movies of a small country town being football being a big thing, church being a big thing. It was exactly like that. I'd watch those movies and I'm like, oh yeah, that's us.
That's the life I lived. I lived this life.
Yes, yes. I mean, where you run across the pasture to meet your friends, which is rare to find today. But that's kind of where I grew up there, was an athlete, which will make sense later in this podcast. And just always tried to build mass and faith, body, and business. It's kind of my
Hey.
slogan. And yes, sir. And then I guess the last little tidbit on myself is on a personal note. I love to fish.
Hey, we have that in
Yeah,
common.
we do, man. Yeah. So anybody else listening to this, you got some good fishing spots. Don't post them live. Just send them to me in a DM. And
Hey, but if I remember correctly, you're the noodler.
I
So
do. Yeah. If we can, we'll throw up an image here. It's my dad with a massive catfish. Yeah. We go noodling. We even take some clients noodling,
hey,
depending on the season. But yeah, we go noodling. Noodling and sand bass fishing is probably our two favorite ones.
okay.
How about
Yeah,
yourself?
sand bass fishing's fun. I'm a catfish guy, but normally with rod and reel. I haven't dangled my hand down there yet to see. But part of the difference is I'm short, so where I
Oh yeah,
can get to is very
yeah,
different than where you can.
yeah. You have to grab your ankle. We'll hold you. We'll just
Yeah, there you go. Just hold me upside down and we'll be fine.
yeah.
I'll hit you with the other hand.
Yes, sir. But into, I guess I'm trying to reference more of the faith side of my personal note. And I always have to include my dad, especially with him being a preacher, because I grew up rough, man, before I moved in with him.
Mm,
I mean, CPS lifestyle, all of that. And watching that man live that life is what motivated me to lean towards Christianity. I'm talking
mhm.
like a past tense, because before I
Yeah.
knew nothing about it. It just, even when you go to like church or when you go around these gatherings, when you're a young individual and you have a zero direction, you're just in a physical place,
Hmm.
it means nothing. It really does, or at least it did to me. I would sit there and I just wouldn't know what was going on, and I just,
Yeah.
even though I was there, I was just oblivious. And then, moving in with that guy and watching him, like he did our calling, like the homeless ministries. He was more of the talk is cheap preacher.
Mm.
Like he didn't care how motivated you were. He was like, we got to go take some action.
Yeah.
Who needs help? Where can we go? And his wasn't the feel good type of preaching. And maybe it's a genetic descendant, but I just resonated with it. And I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Sometimes good preaching doesn't always make you feel good. So I get you.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I mean, yeah, having him as that example, it even rolled into my business. Just that talk is cheap motto. That's where I got it from.
Yeah.
And growing up with that mentality with everything, with sports, Christianity, business, action cures all.
Well, man, so tell me a little bit. So you grew up with your dad. He was a big influence on you, and you grew up in small Texas town, and football was a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have the inkling that you participated. How was your football career?
Oh man, high school, I was all-state defensive most valuable player of the year. First district every time I could touch the ground since I was there. But take in mind, we're a small town, so it sounds really good on paper. But, we weren't a 6A football team. I mean, I played in like the Oil Bowl, which is where they take a bunch of kids, like the top kids from all the schools. And it originated from like Oklahoma and Texas playing each other.
Mm.
So we've had that feud even on a high school level for a long time. And so now it's a little different, but yeah, and we won the Oil Bowl, the team that I was on, so I got a fancy ring and all that mess. But yeah, I was pretty decent at football, man, especially being my size in such a small school.
Yeah.
It worked out for me. But I will tell you this, so now that I brag, let me humble myself. I went to Angelo State, and I was like, man, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to smack these guys around. And I found out I was just a big fish in a little pond before I came here. Right before I went there in Angelo State. I mean, some big old boys, man. I was standing up at my height, which we both seen each other, and I'm looking, and then I see dude's chest right here to me, and I'm like, I didn't know they made people that big. What are y'all
The Lord
eating?
still makes giants.
Yes. Yep, and it was almost normal. Like I was walking by my position, and I was like, how are y'all all this tall? Like, it's not one of you. Why am I so short? And and I leave the locker room, and I'm the tallest man in the building, and I'm walking through classes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they are.
Chris, to give reference for those who are not watching, who are listening, how tall are you?
I'm about 6'1".
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's not a little guy when he's talking about how big these other guys are. So how quick did it take you to realize that this is a new level of ball that you're playing?
Probably about 5 minutes. 5 minutes of actual contact. So
You're like,
yeah, I lasted probably about 4 to 6 weeks. The reason why I say 4 to 6 is I tried to leave at 4, and they drug it out, and so I was like, this is not for me. I'm up at 4 a.m. and you know what I mean. I just didn't see the career path. And so last little thing there, what they did to motivate us, they had an NFL player, and, they was from there, and they're coming in, and I'm seeing a dude that's just, 6'7", 400 pounds, and I'm just like, I'm not going to be you, man. I'll just face reality. And and I was like, yep, I'm not going to go to the NFL. I'm going to chase business. And so, yes, sir. And I've always grown up, so where if you wanted extra money, you just go to the local neighbor. Hey, I'll brush hog your yard. Hey, you have some fence to be fixed. And I didn't even know that stuff was entrepreneurship. Now we have fancy terms to go for it, but it was back then. It was just, hey, I know that Margaret needs help, and I'm like, okay, if I go over there, maybe she'll pay me a couple bucks. I can go do something. But I took that same just small town mentality, and it has helped me in every venture I've been a part of, especially Affili-Fit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, so that wasn't the end of your athletic journey, though. Before we get into Affili-Fit, so you got one more. You got another piece here that
Yeah.
that you moved on from football. What did you move into after that?
Yeah. So after football, I went into bodybuilding, which throw up a snippet here if we can. Yeah. And so I was like 330 plus, and I was a D lineman, and being as
Hmm.
short as I am, that weight helped me a lot. So in my eyes, I'm short, especially in the industry or in the
Hmm.
position I was in. I was very short. Um, and I just knew that I wanted to look better. That's really what it comes down to. Just when you're that big, and every D lineman has the same feeling. We act tough, and yeah, we're definitely tougher than most. But at the end of the day, we look in the mirror and we're like, yeah, I can bench 500 pounds, but why am I like, I look awful
Yeah.
and I feel awful. My face is swollen. So I was literally walking in the gym. I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I met a bodybuilder. I seen a bodybuilder. And I just immediately looked at him, and I would walk straight to him and I said, I want to look just like him. And he helped me. Fast forward. Taught me, about like how calories worked, what macros
Hmm.
were. I knew what calories were because we had a calorie, basically a minimum.
Hmm.
So like me, I was bred to be big, and they were just like, you have to hit a minimum calories of this, and like here's a protein suggestion. We hope you hit it. But I didn't understand the full depth of why. I did more calories big. That's where my mind went. And
Yeah.
then as I went into the bodybuilding stage, I just realized like not only calories, but like the importance of balancing your macros.
Hmm.
And that's all suggestive, or it's objective, I guess.
Yeah.
Nobody fully knows the 100% secret for everybody, but I do challenge those to really just act as a science project, or act as if it's a science project. But yeah, man, I lost a bunch of weight, and then I was able to sustain a lot of muscle. A lot of big linemen that lose a bunch of weight, y'all just hit a old Google, and they don't keep very much muscle mass.
Yeah.
And like I even have that one on my LinkedIn because I wanted to show people like, yeah, it takes forever. It takes a long time to sustain muscle mass and lose weight.
Yeah.
But I was able to do it.
So you were a college athlete. You played college football. You moved into bodybuilding, and kind
Hmm.
of it sounds like you gained a little bit of a passion here for health and fitness, and you were your own guinea pig here for a little while
Oh, for
of
sure.
getting it there.
Me and hundreds of others. Because it's a topple effect. When I lost a bunch of weight and I started posting about it, everybody, especially from my hometown, messaging me, how can I lose weight? Even my dad. I mean, how can I do this? And I just started helping everybody with the full transparency, like, hey, this is just what I did.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it had a trickle effect. And I carried that with me on the side my whole life. And, until now. I feel old, man. It's been a while. So since that journey started.
So you kind of got into the personal training side of things,
Oh yeah, still do it.
but still do it. You kind of got
Hmm.
you, so was it ever something that you thought you were going to get into, or did you just kind of fall into it from really just your path of trying to lose weight after you stopped playing football?
Yep, fell into it. You get asked so many times, and as a young man, it did pump my ego. Like people would just walk by and then they would ask for help. And then in some of their faces, not all, I could just see the feeling that I had when you're sitting there on the couch, or like mine was chairs. So let me share a funny, and this is common. I want y'all to own up to it if you have that same thing out there. I would size up a chair. If I was walking, I would look at that chair and be like, can that chair hold me? Like, because I crushed a bunch of desks in school. I did. And I hope my friends see this and make comments. Man, I would sit down on those level desks and they would just, whoa. And then I was like, okay, I got to find me a sturdy chair. And like that feeling, and then constantly tugging at your shirt. And so when I seen that in somebody, I would just try and get close to them and just wait for them to ask.
Yeah.
Or when they did ask me, it was a passion project at that point, which is still why I only do it for people that I feel that in. It
Mhm.
was never a huge monetary project for me. I wasn't planning on scaling it as a business.
Yeah.
That's why I'm very selective.
Well,
Hmm.
so let's let's transition a bit. I feel like it's a good segue here to talk a little bit about Affili-Fit. So let's talk that journey. Let's bridge that gap. So you started doing personal training, right? You got this passion to go ahead and help people. You wanted them to get healthier. You'd learned a lot through your own journey about macros and how to help people from a diet standpoint. You learned how to help people from a training standpoint. And so how did it get to Affili-Fit? So, and actually, let's do this. Why don't you tell us what Affili-Fit is, and then you can go ahead and talk about that gap.
Yeah, so Affili-Fit is a company built to build the health and wealth of communities. And today, that is through a mobile app that I created that automates meal planning, exercise routines, and even grocery prep. And if you're hitting your health goals and living a healthy lifestyle, we then reward you with products and services from local businesses.
What type of products do you typically do?
Oh man, I just got a barber from Oklahoma City. So it is all over the place, man. Since we've talked, I'll give a brief rundown. Anything that's a product or a service direct to consumer now. We have lawn care and take in mind, guys, if y'all are watching this, it's only available in your zip code if it's a service like that. Mm-hmm. But we have barbers, lawn care, oil changes, a bunch of nutrition stores, which is, I guess, kind of obvious. Anything. We even have a guy, I can't remember his name, but he signed up through our deal, and we're going to vet it out and make sure it's real. But we had a request, so you can go to our site and request to be a rewards partner, and it was like LinkedIn services. And if it's real, and we're going to check and make sure everything's good, but that'll be cool. Because you never know what small business owner might be out there to look at that. But let me get back on track. So circling back, how I created it, why I created it, I won't give the full story because it is not like in the movies for me. I didn't just wake up and, aha, it was pure happenstance. And it was a bunch of happenstances over a long period of time. So while I was personal training, I was also a commercial construction estimator, and I was always in commercial construction. I just grew up around construction my whole life. Mm-hmm. So that's where I knew where I needed to go. It's where I knew I could make a lot of money in the sense of where I was. And so I would build out custom spreadsheets, or I would work with custom spreadsheets that would automate costs for buildings. And all at the same time, I'm still doing meal planning for people. Meal planning, exercise routine, only when I had time though, because I was handwriting them and I would be on the phone with them saying hey, what will you not eat? What will you eat? As detailed as possible. And then I finally just started writing down my questions because I would go through and maybe somebody would have an issue. I'd be like, oh, I forgot to ask them that question. Because to me, it wasn't a business. It was genuinely helping people. And some people just don't know what they don't know. And when you do it so much, it becomes wallpaper. And you just forget sometimes. If you don't have a system, I had no system because it wasn't a business to me. It was just phone calls with friends wanting to lose weight. And then finally, it was this was the only part that was like a movie. I looked down at the meal plan I was creating. I looked up at my spreadsheet that I was doing for work. And I was like, why don't I just automate meal planning? And It's literally what I did. I grabbed it, I went, and I figured out how to do it. I mean, it took me weeks, man. It took me a while to figure out how to balance all of that. But I did. And I mentioned it to the right person at the right time. I got my first investor. That snowballed into getting 4 more. And we built this app that just did your meal planning, exercise routines, and grocery prep. We started partnering with employers and in the community. People loved it. And then we had employers that were like, hey, we have a wellness program. And at the end of the day, this thing's more valuable. Especially those mid-size, because they have to hire an entire, that whole business more than I do. And he was like, this hits all the main points. And so we were pushing it with him really hard, and we realized that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Yeah. As cool as our AI is and as cool as our planning is, I mean, it's down to the specific calorie. So, it is pretty wicked. And even the groceries for it, too. So it's hands off. If you want to lose weight, say yes, get the app, start clicking, and it'll get you exactly where you need to go. And you would think that would be enough. For the person that wants to do it, it's plenty. But for the people that are like, oh, my company bought this for me, and we all know who they are. We don't need to ignore them. They need something more than themselves. Sometimes there's people that are working a job that it's just not about them.
Yeah.
and especially men. And
Mm-hmm.
hate to be direct with that, but they just, I think we're built to serve in a different way. And a lot of them take it all the way deep down to even their body. They just don't care. They're like, all right, I'm here. I'm getting these bills. I'm getting this figured out. I'm being a man of character. I'm doing all these things. My health is not a concern. And
Yeah.
so that segued into somebody was actually trying to embarrass me. And it was a big old country guy. And he was like, if you could get me a free oil change, I'll use your app. And I didn't know he was like leaving that day to get an oil change. That was the deal. Because they were like, ha, 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 and everybody's laughing. You know when you try and talk and it's awkward because no one's listening to you? That's exactly what happened. And I got so angry because I had such an ego. I left there and went to the oil change shop that I've known the owner of for a while. And I just got an oil change, and this guy's a brilliant businessman. He's a part of like multiple businesses, not just oil, or like the oil changes. And he was like, can I have my logo in your app? And it just clicked with me right then. I was like, this could be like a little advertising platform. I was like, well, how much can I pay? Like, what's the discount rate? And then he was like, no, I'll just give you oil changes. And he told me how much he spent on like the billboard and these signs and like this guy out front, 20. He was like, it is so much cheaper for me to just give you oil changes than it is for me to pay these guys, pay this board, pay this sign. And it just snowballed, man. And he know how referrals work. We got one on there, and they seen our sticker. Because if they're a company's or rewards partner, for those of you listening, you can go inside of there. And most of the time, if they're doing it right, they'll have a sticker on the window or some just do a piece of paper. We allow them to do kind of their own designs too. So it's just like our logo on the QR code so we can track where they came from. We are tracking you. We want to see where you come from because we probably pay that rewards partner a percentage. So when it does hit track, we don't do nothing with your personal data. I want to put this out there. That's how we pay that rewards partner to cover the cost of future rewards. So when it asks allow, please hit allow. I'm not selling your stuff. If you have any questions, by the way, you can also hit the contact and the privacy policy and ask for what data I have. A lot of companies aren't open about this, in tech especially. But ask me. Like, if you want to see what we're doing, because if you can't tell, there's kind of that twinge in my voice. We have a lot of people that are hitting no, and I don't think they understand like what those links are for in those stores. And, you know, every time somebody doesn't hit that, but they still buy, because we can see y'all are buying, thank you. But at the end of the day, if we can't track it back to that rewards partner, we can't pay them a commission to cover the cost of future products and services.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's a big deal with the way that your app works and is built, this business model, right? You know, it's not just that it's good for the employees. So this app that you have, Affili-Fit, it specifically is targeted towards business owners to be able to bring it on as a wellness app for employees, right? Which is how we got connected to begin with, because it connects well into my space and into the insurance space, which is we're trying to be proactive and actually having a healthy person. We care about the whole person. And as part of that process is that we want to have things in place. So a way an employer can show care for their employee is that they care about the whole person. So this is a way for them to get healthier. But not just that, it also is a way for you to actually build up communities and where this is placed and planted, right? That's the idea of how this started, of you reaching out to these small business owners nearby. It's giving them exposure by being able to offer something through your rewards program that actually benefits their business and benefits the consumer. So they're actually, instead of, I've done wellness apps in the past and different programs, and you get little points or whatever, and I'm just going to be honest. No one wants to do the workouts for a company logoed T-shirt. They really just don't want to do it for that. That's not going to cut it. But you can. But like your story, you know, I actually do need an oil change, so I would be willing. I'd be willing to cash this in for something that's helpful. So, you know, you're hitting multiple categories here of being able to help people. So
Oh, and touching on what you just said, that is something that gets brought up all the time. Because they do like company swag is like the term that I keep running into. And it's like, man, they spend all day with you. And it's like, I know that we have this delusion of like, oh, everybody loves everybody. Everybody, we should all just live together. Like, that's how some companies act. And I'm like, hey, I get it. But they also have a life outside of here. And like the oil change, like they're thinking all these things. Like as soon as I get, okay, I got to make sure I get there before they close. Like there's so many things. And, you know, a lot of Americans statistically live in paycheck to paycheck. Something else that we don't talk about. It's hard. And last thing on that one is we have some, I guess you'd call them competitors. Some of our benefits brokers bring them up. I don't think they're competitors, but they have like the $5 coupons to like Walmart or like the $5 if you like just say that you walked. Like you don't actually do. Yeah, I don't know how all that works. I'm not going to bash them. Hey, they're helping people get healthier. But that has no emotional connection to the local community. And in order to make a lifestyle change, especially with something as addicting as food, food is addictive.
Yeah.
And certain items, especially sugars, very addictive. And in order to go against that, if any of you ever battled an addiction, because even I have, even though everything looks awesome on the outside, I have battled an addiction. And it's awful in that sense, especially food. Food's one of those things everybody can go and buy. There's no law keeping you from going and buying food. So if you want to cope with it, that's one thing that's overlooked, man. And we have to make a an emotional connection with the rewards. That's the psychology of healthy living is the people who aren't going to do it right off the bat, because those people really don't need the motivation because they have theirs. People who are just immediately in the gym, they already know what they're doing. But the other people, it has to be something either more than themselves or it has to be something that touches them personally. And a $5 coupon to a mega box store is it's not going to do it.
No, it's not going to get it done. Yeah, man. And I think, you've humanized this process, which I think is valuable. You know, it's, you can hear it in your voice. You can hear it in the way you talk about your experiences, your past, and even getting into this is ultimately like you care about people. And like this is something that was birthed out of that, which is trying to actually help people. And products have a different feel. Businesses have a different feel when what they're trying to solve is to solve something actually human, actually helpful. It's not just about making a quick buck off of somebody, but actually trying to resolve a problem. And I think, you know, it comes across different. And honestly, like it tends to be more, those businesses tend to be more successful because you can weed through, like you can sniff something that's not, you know, genuine. You know, you can smell someone who's being disingenuous. So, you know, even from just this story and how you got this app to go, like it's very genuine. It's something that you were trying to really help people with. And I think that's, you know, that's commendable. And it's exciting to see, you know, your growth. It's coming.
Thanks, man. And while we're on that topic, so all you business coaches out there, I don't need your help. Because a lot of them, they see us and they think that like, hey, you can scale faster, run these ads, do this. And we're growing slow for a reason. And it's exactly what you just said. We're making a personal touch with our rewards partners and our employers and our benefits broker. So I've already met with you. Me or somebody on my team will physically be there.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're sick, have COVID, or you just don't like us, whatever that is, I don't know. We're going to do everything we can to we want to be a part of the family. And we want to bring you in and make sure that you know that we're here for you and your community. And that's not something that sounds sexy when it comes to tech. It's not a Silicon Valley keywords because, you know, they all tell you just run ads. And I know we could be more successful now by running ads. But long term, I will crush every health app out there due to our personal connection. But that's how when I started the intro to Affili-Fit, we're a company with a mission to build the health and wealth of communities, and today that's through an app. So
Yeah.
I do have big future visions, like where we want to go and like how we want to take this company and, build the health and wealth of communities. Just today, and for accessibility purposes and to simplify healthy living, an app is just so much value for the buck. Like, yeah, it was hard for me to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I door knocked for that. That was some of the most learning and embarrassing times of my life, but we did it. But we have to be servants. And I say I'm talking to you like I'm talking to my team. But I tell them that we have to be servants. We are here to serve. And, we have some rewards partners who just can't afford to give away stuff, but they've called us and like, hey, what can we do? We buy it from them. So if you've made it this far, how long are we in? 29 minutes. If you're a rewards partner, and if let's just say you're hesitant, or if you're in a financial spot, message me on LinkedIn or wherever my contact information is going to be. I'll buy your reward from you and offer it through our app, and I'll pay to have everything put in and all of that. Because at the end of the day, if we can motivate that one person to make that next step towards living a healthier lifestyle, to where when they're 55, they can run around with their grandkids and they can be that grandparent or that dad or that parent, anybody, the mom who's running out and just feels confident while they're playing with their children or grandchildren, that's worth a product or service. So
It's worth every penny, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, brother, I want to leave with one last question for you. So we first got connected kind of through the faith and work movement here in DFW.
Mm-hmm.
You are a part of that as being a Christian business owner and being here involved with, we're both involved with Faith-Driven Entrepreneur here.
Yes.
What do you see in this faith and work movement? Where do you see it going? How do you see it impacting people in communities?
Ooh, that's a really good question, because for somebody like myself, that's deep. Because impact, it's a multifaceted impact. So I'll start with the like-minded peers, because those are the ones the easiest to understand.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones I can probably speak for, and by them I mean like you and I, we hit it off. And I think it's just because that like-minded approach, and we kind of have that warrior mentality to Christianity. We're kind of like, hey, let's just get it. And we're also, maybe that's the entrepreneurship in us too. It's just so many good things that connect there. So the impact there is to, I don't know if it's inspire or if it's just to feel comfort of that like-minded person. Because that's what it was for me. I'm not somebody who lives on motivation. You know what I mean? I'm about action. Let's go get it. But when I see somebody else that's just like me, or that I want to be like, vice versa, I'm like, okay. And I just I feel this in my soul. And I'm like, okay, that's where I want to go. So that when it comes to the impact, the direct impact of what you're doing, whatever that is for you, to me, that's serving the health and wealth of communities. Before it was serving the homeless in ministry, whatever that act is for you. And I do believe it needs to be an act. If you physically can't go anywhere, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. Yeah, that's what my dad used to say. And now let's move on to the community. I think seeing them, the impact it can have is, one, growing faith, but also two, giving them a sense of security. The people who are truly honest with themselves know that there are leaders, there are warriors, and then there's people that are built to comfort, or people are built to care, and people are built in different types of service. And I think for them, it would give a lot of comfort. And, a lot of like, okay, we're growing and we're being led in the right way, and we're being led with action. Because it's one thing about our group. It's, we're meeting, it's not just like an email.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are like moving away from that, or they'll just send a pre-recorded video with no context. So I'm okay with pre-recorded video, but there has to be some type of community or relationship being built so that we can foster and grow faith within each other.
Yeah.
I could keep going on that, man. So
Yeah, man. No, that's great. I mean, and I'm thrilled to be working side by side with you, striving for the kingdom, helping communities. We have a lot of overlap in our business sphere. So, brother, well, thank you for jumping on. Let me kind of leave with this. So, where can our listeners find you?
Oh, so you can find me on Instagram at __ Christopher Burgess, LinkedIn, Christopher Burgess, and then Facebook, if you got Facebook, Christopher Burgess, Bull, Bull. That's my nickname. And then my company website is www.affili-fit.com. That's AFFILIFIT.com. And then you can also find our mobile app on Google Play Store, Apple App Store, or if you're somebody who just wants to use the web, the internet, we also have a web app, and that's accessible there.
Awesome, man. Well, and I appreciate you jumping on today, having a good conversation about what it is that you do, your story. It's encouraging to see brothers in Christ who are striving to make an impact in the kingdom, Lord, striving to, in this case, help the health and wellness of people. I think it's a great mission. You're incredibly passionate about it, and I'm thankful that got to have you on today, man. So for all you listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today to the Built in Faith podcast. I'm your host, David Hemm, and I'll see you next time.
All right.